What's up, traders? All right, guys. So, a couple of you were asking, what are we thinking of Neo directionally? And then some interesting kind of philosophy, maybe, or just some interesting things to think about when we talk about trading, and especially currencies. I mean, when you start trading global macro, whether you're a business person that you have to buy certain inventory and you're trading with other parts of the world, um, there's a lot of forex or currency risk that comes into play. And as a macro trader or as a a directional trader or a prop trader, there's a lot of different what they call relative value trades that exist in markets too. A lot of times there's a lot of relative value trades in fixed income markets where you're trading two instruments that are very similar. Maybe they have different duration, and you're trying to find the one that is cheaper relative to the other. But essentially, they're kind of a similar asset class. But what's kind of interesting about what crypto's kind of emerging is a relative value trade where all three items involved is a currency. So before, where we have a group of forex traders and we'll trade around the euro. Here's an example. We'll trade around the euro versus the pound over here, guys. Here's euro versus the dollar, right? Euro versus the pound. Okay, and then sometimes we're trading pound versus the dollar, and we're trading euro versus the dollar, and we're trading euro versus the pound, all at the same time. And we'll have them on different screens, and we're trading those three kind of as a pairs trade, often against each other. And it's not exactly a relative value, but there's something kind of interesting that's happening in the crypto markets where we were taking Neo, for example, the other day. So the question is has Neo really gone down in value during this whole Bitcoin rally? So the last 2-3 weeks, has Neo or any of the altcoins, or a lot of the altcoins for that matter, have they really gone down in value, or have they really declined in price? And when you start on the surface, it looks like yes, because what's happening is most of us as traders are buying these altcoins against Bitcoin, right? So I'm going to try to quickly explain this. I hope it makes sense. But when we think about assets, okay, versus whatever it is that you're purchasing or selling, you have to understand which side of the equation you're dealing with. So assets and money are usually on the opposite sides of the equation. Well, in crypto land, Neo, yeah, it's your currency in the sense that it's a coin, but you're really not buying things or trading things in Neo. All right, Bitcoin's different. People are buying and selling land and cars in Bitcoin and in Litecoin, and in some of these others, Mise is trying to partner with different restaurants. So it's kind of strange that we're finding money on both sides of the equation now. And so it's creating this kind of weird, different paradigm in this asset class. And I don't know, maybe I can explain it a little better and do a more in-depth kind of history of currency versus assets. Because there was a time when gold was our money supply was backed by gold. Well, that puts gold on this side of the equation. Well, now when Nixon took us off the gold standard, gold has moved over here to the asset side. So we price gold today in dollars, right? Okay, so typically when the asset rallies, it's either the money is kind of staying neutral or you're having a decline in the currency or in money. but they usually oscillate like draw a what is this thing called on the playground? You know, where you sit on one side and it goes back and forth. It's on the other side of the seesaw. So when you get assets up, usually you have money go down. In 2008, when you had assets collapsing, the dollar went up. Because you can't have everybody selling Google and Apple and selling real estate and selling mortgages and selling gold and selling this. Everybody's selling those assets, but that they have to move to dollars, so that pushes the value of the dollar up. All right? So that's a very important distinction to understand in finance, is that assets are on one side of the equation, money is on the other. And so when we think about, I have no idea how to clear this off. This is a new tool I'm using, guys. I don't really know how to clear it. Is this eraser? Oh, that's a lot. Okay, so think about that again with gold, right? Gold is on one side of the equation, dollars on the other side. Well, you can have gold go down in price. Well, let's say it goes up in price. So you can have gold go up in price, or you can have the chart of gold look like it's rising, but gold is actually flat, and then you could have something over here that's collapsing, like something like Zimbabwe dollar or, you know, Venezuela currency, and that's absolutely collapsing. Well, gold price hasn't really moved. The international gold spot price, depending on which exchange, depending on what you're pricing gold in, gold has gone nowhere for the last couple of years, relatively speaking. But if you have your currency on this side of the equation absolutely on fire, guess what? Your gold chart is going to go to the moon, or any other asset, because the asset's on this side. So your chart is going to look different. And when you want to see a real bull market in something, you got to look at it in a lot of different baskets of currencies. So is gold rising with the euro? Is gold rising with the dollar? Is gold rising with the pound? Is gold rising with the yen? That's going to show you a real bull market, because it's not just a one-off, the currency is collapsing and gold is a hedge. Now, gold's a great hedge, but it's not really moving. So it's important to understand that. Now, when we think about NEO, it's kind of the same comparison, where is NEO really when we look at the differences here, let me get off of this. When we look at the differences between, this is NEO versus the USD Tether. So Tether is obviously mimicking close to the dollar, where we don't have 40% swings in the dollar. We have 40% swings in Bitcoin very easily, right? So because if you have USDT on the other side of this, it's really showing you a more accurate view of what's happened to NEO. It trades fine, right? Your NEO hasn't collapsed. It's just been the rally in Bitcoin, right? So let's change over to NEO versus, oh, that's the wrong one. NEO versus BTC, and this is similar to all the other altcoins. You're getting dragged down because of the rally in BTC. Obviously everybody knows that, but it's kind of important to really realize the value of Tether, or just selling into dollars, because you know, unless you're long Bitcoin at the same time, it's going to keep you pretty hedged. But again, it's more of an accounting thing. Like, how are we measuring NEO? Well, we're measuring it in Bitcoin, which has been rallying. So we have, you know, I know most of you guys understand this. It's just important to know. NEO is on this side of the equation. BTC, Bitcoin, on this side of the equation. So we have Bitcoin really rallying and NEO staying the same. It's creating this downtrend. But in reality, to like John's point in the room, if we look at the versus tether, it's fine. So but it depends on how you play it. You know, if you're sitting long NEO, have you really been, you know, if you look at versus BTC, if you're long NEO and you failed to sell up here, well, that would have been the better play, right? Because now you have more Bitcoin, you can buy more NEO cheaper now. But if you held your NEO, are you really out? Are you really losing money? It's more of kind of an accounting thing. You know, you're going to have a chance to buy more NEO with your Bitcoin. But I think what you got to realize is that when we have these backups in the chart, you got to kind of take advantage of the increase in Bitcoin. If you have it, sell some Bitcoin, and now you can buy more NEO. And this is a little bit deceiving. I think the better way to look at it is versus Tether. If you were long Bitcoin at 7,500, you take some off. You have dollars now, and now you can buy more NEO. And this is a better reflection of the chart. You know, it's held up very well. So directionally, what I want to see kind of here now on NEO is we're still making lower highs. Still making lower highs on the intermediate term. If you guys can see that or what. Right? And the bands, technically, since we went through here, you can see how the bands are all negative and they're still down. So that's just showing you that, you know, you got to play some defense or it's not quite ready to go. But look, I like this. I like this candle here. Price is held up above this candle. This was a nice move. You know, we had this huge move up, then we had this big bearish move down, right? This is a big fat red candle. It's a lot of distance and it's a lot of time, right? If you draw it from the highs, it's even bigger. But then look about halfway. So once we started the rally, we rallied to about halfway. That's pretty classic in our model. But we're still holding up pretty much halfway of the move, of this green move off the lows, right? Of this wall off the lows. Color that in. I mean, we're holding, so this is pretty solid action here. What we want to kind of see, though, is this daily cycle turn up, which it is. We kind of want to see what the weekly looks like. And then I'll zoom in on a intermediate term, but let's see the weekly. We don't have a good cycle there. You can see this kind of wedge though, right? But what we kind of want to see on the 4 hour is we got to start punching through and making higher highs. So all this is still negative. Lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. So it doesn't mean you can't start playing it contrarian. Buy a little bit, right? We bought some down here, but when you get these rallies and you're in an intermediate term downtrend, if you buy well, you got to take some off here at the bands. You know, if you dip back down, you can buy again. If you nibble here, which ideally I'd like to see this 4 hour come down a little bit, but if we nibble here, anything you guys buy well on this rally, next rally into these highs up here, you got to be taking some profit. All right, and then we'll get more aggressive if and when we get through these highs and we start making higher highs. That'll be the intermediate term uptrend. Then you'll start to see more momentum come in. So you still got to be a little bit patient. Anyway, that was kind of a lengthy video. I hope that kind of sums up those relationships, and we're gonna have to keep working on it, because we can have scenarios where these currencies or coins are traded against Bitcoin and the dollar. So you basically have all three are, in a sense, currencies. The dollar is definitely a currency. Bitcoin's a currency now. And now these things like NEO have value, and people are trading them around. So it's almost like you have three. Litecoin's probably a better example. If you have Litecoin versus the dollar versus Bitcoin, I mean, you're basically trading three currencies off each other. So I think it's important for us to get good with the relationships between the Bitcoin rallies, and then when we should be taking some of that off, going to dollars. Selling into dollars or Tether is very important, because then when you get into these bear markets and altcoins, you can stay away and buy those stuff up much cheaper, and that's the way to do it. You want to stay invested in the stuff that's rallying or the stuff that's not going down. Preserve the capital, and then when you really get to some bearish levels or the cycles get really low, then you come in and pick that stuff up cheaper. Same thing with Bitcoin. We've got to be taking some off at 7,500, because if we have another 50% pullback, retracement, which is very common in that market, then you can buy Bitcoin back cheaper. If you just stay long and you sit through the entire move down and then the entire move back up, you just wasted all that time. You weren't able to accumulate and compound it all. Anyway, guys, I'll try to crank a few more videos out.